Hello. I'm in kind of a funny space. I thought about recording earlier, but I didn't. I had tears just absolutely streaming, and it was from appreciation. It was amazing. There was this bug, such a diminutive word to cover such vast kingdoms of creatures, crawling across the porch rafter. And it was one of those ones whose body looks rather like a leaf. And it was large. So amazing. So truly amazing. And it had antennae that were twice as large as it was. And I was just taken at first, just by the unusualness of it, and then by the beauty. And I shared with it what I was feeling. It stopped. It just stopped. I didn't get any sense of fear or anything like that. I think it might have been picking me up, tuned into my channel, did what I could to tune into its channel. One day I will know what it feels like to be that bug or whatever it is I'm looking at. I think we're being plugged in that way. I really do. As I was watching, and the feeling grew, and it wasn't, there it is again, it wasn't just the bug, it was Gaia. It wasn't anything in particular, it was everything together. And when we even get just the merest taste, just a millionth of the awesomeness that is Gaia, well, it's just about enough to slay you. It's just so phenomenal. And of course she feels us. She feels that and responds. Now, in the past, we haven't really been there to pick up the response. It's like the birds and the deer and the creatures, when you're walking through the park or the forest or whatever it is, they pick up on you, your presence. They have this broader awareness, and they respond. Most of us haven't been available to their response. How many of us would love, for instance, to be able to commune with the dolphins? We know they're interacting with us, you know. How many of us would like to pick up on their part of the conversation? Well, I think we're being plugged in and wired to do just that. As I was standing there, as I say, tears streaming, in front of the window, just marveling. And, you know, if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be appreciation. But that's, well, those of you who have felt anything like this know that that doesn't cut it. It points to it, as Eckhart Tolle is fond of saying. As I was standing there, what I noticed was suddenly there was relaxation in my torso. Not anything I did, it was just there. And then I got back into what I was doing and appreciating the bug. And then suddenly the relaxation extended down into my legs. And it wasn't anything I was doing, but it kind of felt like I was being plugged into Gaia. I mean, you know, I don't know what's going on at this point. All I can do is describe feelings, perceptions, sensations. But I know I'm not alone in this. See, that's the beauty. Nothing's personal. There are no persons here. And so once we discover that we're not the lone stranger going through whatever it is, that's a really, really nice feeling, to be linking up again with our greater self, who knew all along we were never alone. But again, somehow we cut ourselves off from so much. And, I guess maybe another way to say it is the veils are dropping. But I didn't feel like this was a blockage that had been removed. I felt like this was an active connection, a linkage. Anyway, the journal I have to share with you now is from June 20th. I'll be up to July's journals pretty soon. The Mayan day was 3, crocodile or alligator. Now this is early on, because the crocodile or alligator, that's the first of the sun signs, and then 3 for the tone or the number puts this at the beginning, not at 10, 11, 12, 13, where things are being put together, but this is where things are being assembled. So see if the journal doesn't resonate that way for you. And instead of truth just is, it's truth just bees. All love to you, dear ones, each and every one of you. I have quite fallen in love with life. Oh my God, I didn't read this before. This is so harmonious with what was going on this morning. Quite fallen in love with life. It's nuts, and I don't care a bit that it is. This being in heart thing is so endlessly beauty-filled. One isn't always consciously aware of that. Such awareness comes and goes, and I guess that's just part of the deal. All of the illusions, the misinformation, and even outright lies that are promulgated about awakening, it's enough to make you wonder, but I don't suggest that. Looking deep into lies will get you what? What that's worth getting, that is. I would be cautious with any why question at all. They are hugely mind things. Not always, though. Actually, I don't think there's such a thing as an always when we're speaking from or of 3D. Everything changes, and now more so than ever before. Nor do I see that changing up ahead. We seem to be on an ever-increasing momentum of change, spiraling up, spiraling down, whatever is our choice. Yes, we still have free will, which is a bit of an amazement in itself. What are you attached to? Well, to say it correctly, to what are you attached? Yeah. We learn how to do things properly, and this is nice, nothing wrong with it. Yet, once we know it, we need not be enslaved by it. That too is a choice. We are free beings, but only as free as we choose to be. It takes more courage than most people realize to just be real. Just be the self, unvarnished, not paid up nor polished to look good. What others think is so supremely unimportant. But not until we make that the way of our life. Until then, there's a certain amount of our power that we have not yet reclaimed. Do you see? Self, and now here in heart. That is my way. It seems to cover all the bases. It's really quite complete, amazingly so. So, from this perspective, others are not in our view. For a time, in a way, it's almost as if they don't exist. Ultimately, they really don't, since all is just the one. So perhaps, quote unquote, others are seen for a time as different aspects of the self. Can you do that? Better said is, will you do that? Since it's a matter of choice to make that shift. Now, sure, it may seem phony or fake at first, but do you know what? That's a good indication you've strayed from heart. It doesn't seem strange from there. Just a hint. I hesitate to share that view of others, though. It's a bit mental at first. Later, it will be sensed, it will be felt, but at first, I've got to admit, it seems mental. So, make your choice, always following your own inner guidance, letting that trump simply everything anyone else has to say. Heart knows best. And it's not often going to lead you in precisely the same way or direction as it does someone else. So, be true to you, self, and now here in heart. Let us deeply anchor there. Let it be our home harbor, our place of safety, no matter what the storm. Self and now here in heart. Primary thing is being true to the self, which starts by, or can start by, being strictly honest with you. Now that doesn't mean nitpicky. Remember, this is not head, it is heart, which will never, no, never nitpick. Once again, you experience that, it's another hint that one has strayed from heart. Loving you will help keep you centered. Heart is not only the most powerful, but also the gentlest place to abide. At first, you'll encounter an intense divine love. It will feel amazing as you sense into the unconditionalness of it. You'll be stripped of your other ideas about what love is. Those are nothing like this. By just staying and being with heart, with this unconditional love, many things from the false self will just fall away. There is no need to strip anything off. Things just kind of fall off on their own. They cannot hang on when the vibrations are so coherent or so high. They're just burned off. Just being love, capital L, is enough. No effort required. Just being present is all. Just what it takes to develop the habit. Not so tough. I would suggest we all begin with being true to the self from heart. Only that. We all have ways we're not quite honest or truthful enough with the self, the deep inner self. Things we have just preferred not to see. Well, life gives us our wish. By keeping to the left brain, we haven't been bothered by much of anything deep-seated. Mine stays largely on the surface. We will be shown, just by this sticking to self and now here in heart, we will be shown too how we have not loved the self, how we have shoved the deeper self to the side, preferring always to not deal with it. We fear the pain, the deep feelings, the fear of old issues coming up. But do we? Is it really us feeling that? Have a deeper look, and I suspect you'll discover, or I did, that those are the reactions of mind. There's no shame or wrongness in that. It's just how we're all programmed early on. And the thing is, of course, that doesn't have to remain. We can change it. Choice is ours. This is where we make the identity shift. Can you see it? Yes, it takes courage. You have to be willing to face anything, whatever comes up. There may be discomfort or even fear. That's okay too. Just watch. Look to see where it all originates and just notice it. I'm so excited for you who have not done this yet, for you have a huge empowerment on the horizon, depending of course on the choices you make. By never being willing to face up to whatever's hidden within, we permanently put off taking the power back that's hidden away there. This is only permanent as long as we maintain our previous choice to avoid and evade. Always, always choices. It doesn't matter if we've avoided such things all our life and we're now 92. That's fine. It doesn't matter. Why not? What part of now here is all of that? Self and now here. Stick to that. What will happen is that by coming into our now here moment, the past, as long as we stay in heart, can indeed be a short part of your now here. It's lovingly brought forward to you by your higher self, who knows it's the biggest current hang-up keeping you off balance. It's brought up always for your blessing, not to condemn, criticize, make you suffer, or get you back into mind clatter. That stuff originates in the programmed mind, and you're not limited to that. You'd be surprised how occupied you can be with just self and now here in heart. You won't be bored. That's not even a possibility in heart, since it's strictly a mind thing. Yeah, another hint of mind in action. Easy to spot, easy to drop. You just make a new choice. If boredom comes up, this too could be a message from inner or higher self, who would be pointing out something to you. What it is will be yours to discover, but you will receive more than adequate help from within. Just having the sense of boredom is also an indicator that something you're engaged in does not satisfy your inner self. It's an out of balance indicator. Tilt on the pinball machine. And perhaps only that. The more time we spend within, the more we get used to abiding there, the more our vision will shift. At first, it may be amazing, but before too long, you will see how everything is a blessing, no matter what. A mind will never get this and will be quick to condemn it. As you stay deep inside, though, you'll just come to know better. Not only is anything possible, but everything brings blessing. Two great flowers to plant in your belief garden. You'll find inner peace, and it won't make sense to the mind. Not at all. It may even frighten mind, since it seems so counterintuitive. Well, just watch. It's enough. Get really good at this watching stuff, but don't get attached to it either, nor to anything else. No matter what you're doing now, it will change, no matter how light-filled even. Eternal change is the only constant here. In a funny way, it actually makes mind sense when you look at the reality of eternity and infinity closely. Can you imagine it if nothing ever changed? Ever? What would that be like? Well, mine can't go very far with this, since it's also true that there's a rock solidness that never changes, not by so much as a hair. Typical for higher dimensions, these seeming opposites are true both at once. We replace either or of 3D with both and of higher dimensions. It's really nice. So, at the start of this heart path, there is what may seem to be a bit of a war with the mind, deposing it from its position of rulership over your life. And mind won't like that one bit. So it will fight for all it's worth, like a spoiled child. You'll find yourself, capital S, having to get very firm with the mind. Now, this is where your breathing space is mandatory between who you are and what mind is. You can't do this if you're still identified with the mind. It won't work. For a time, you'll go through whatever it takes to take back your power from the mind. You'll have some scrapes and some scraps. We have been programmed to be mind addicts, so this can be a challenging time. Well, I suggest you don't forget to enjoy the self while you're at it. Besides, it will help keep you sane. What we've been taught and trained to believe is sanity is actually anything but. The world, as it is behaving right now, is quite insane, and a lot of us are seeing that. Yet, as is typical of mind, no one is willing to see or admit it except the awakened ones. They'd rather lock you up for bringing it to their attention, so that's not what I'm suggesting. Remember, self and now here. That leaves others quite out of it. That's their life to lead. You've got your own. I wonder how many are getting the sense of this. I can feel it when you do, you know, and so can you. It's so delightfully delicious, those initial dips into the magical inner kingdom that is your own. It has a felt sense, might even come with a touch of dizziness initially, though it'll likely be different for each one. Like Muji and Adyashanti and probably many others, I caution against expecting bells and whistles, feelings of bliss. Don't go seeking them. Those will likely come afterward, but one can't expect them. They're not the core thing. They don't tell you either that you've awakened. And actually, as many know, they can be a bit dangerous, as they cause people to take a detour from truly finding the self, as they get stuck in a bliss-chasing loop, trying to repeat the past. Now, that wasn't phrased correctly, but it was subtle, so I'll correct it myself instead of asking who caught it. I said that can be a bit dangerous, as it may cause people to take a detour, etc., etc. To say the bliss feelings can cause anything is quite incorrect, as we are pulling our power back now in so many ways. We don't attribute causation to simply anything we do, to outside influences, people, or even states of being. Instead, we make the choices. We are response-able these days, taking responsibility for our life and everything in it. And no, that doesn't come all at once, but Source or higher self will be highlighting for you all the ways you give your power away so you can see and make different choices if you like. It's time for that, to live consciously and quit being so unconscious about what causes what. We make each choice. Some object to that. All I can say is get back down into heart. Chances are quite good that it is mind that objects, not your real self, not who you truly are. So just let go enough to admit that it's possible. That's enough. No need to believe anything here. And I'm perfectly able and willing to discuss such things in the comments. Don't fear to offend me. Just speak your mind, or preferably your heart. Moving from being so totally disempowered as our early life mind programming set us up to be, that isn't done all at once. Moving from that into knowing we're divine, well, it's quite a leap. We take the steps as heart and source present them, which is happening right now and all the time. Life is actually one big conversation with the divine. It's part of heart vision to see it that way. You don't have to imagine it, and it turns out it's quite real. What is real and what is not is relative while in 3D, or from a 3D perspective. These things will shift as we do. They will change. Just as no scientific law stays on the books for more than about 20 years until the next one is discovered, wiping the earlier one out. We're all the time discovering higher truths than what we had learned early on. I hope you can face it that you too were programmed. You're surely not alone in that. Just a fact of 3D Earth life. And yet, that whole apple cart is being toppled right now. Change is coming so fast. We're back into yet another solar wind, and this one also wasn't forecast that I'm aware of. The next one that's predicted won't be here until June 23rd or 24th, so expect more change, accelerated change. The strength of these changes often brings with it physical symptoms, so be alert to that. Don't be a hypochondriac thinking you're sick. Overall, I'm convinced it's wonderful for us, but in the short term, it can be pretty darned uncomfortable. Self and now here in heart. It'll get you there. Back into power, back being truly present there in your now. It's amazing to find how most people really are not present. They are not available. They just seem to be. They just think they are. Oh, they're here in body, sure, and they respond when you talk to them and they get things done, but it's more automatic than anything. Most people, too, are smeared out across time, being many places besides now here. Instead, they're now there, and that doesn't work. Well, not for waking up anyway. It's more like hypnosis instead. Have you noticed? Most of them who are not on any spiritual path yet don't even know what it's like to be present. It's more of an empty state than they would be comfortable with. It might make them feel lost. How about you? Do you know what it's like to be well and truly present? I'm betting that most of you do. Likely in listening to a special lecture or satsang somewhere, you truly tapped into it. Into the vortex, as Abraham says. It's a place where you can watch thoughts float by like clouds and yet not engage them. Not click those links. You have breathing space. You don't have to be in heart to be present, capital P. But you do need to vacate the left brain. Jill Bolte Taylor, and the transcript links you there, was pretty present when having her left brain stroke forced into right brain as she was. So you can be fully in right brain or anywhere in what Eckhart calls the inner body, and I'll link you to that too. Of course, I prefer being heart-centered, but it's not strictly necessary to come back to yourself. How present are you? How often do you find yourself fully present in now? It's a great stress releaser, a really nice state. Maybe it's just getting out of left brain that brings the relief. Could be. All that analytical stuff surely gets old. We've been at it for quite a few millennia now, so it's surely time for a break. Let this be the lifetime and the time for you. We can hear that old saying, there's no time like the present with new ears. So just ditch the analysis, always figuring things out. Just let that be. Trust it to Source for a while. I'm sure Source can handle things while you're away. What if you learned that quite simply all of your stress was left brain centric? How would you feel? And how nice would it be to contemplate a break from simply all of that? To set it aside, even if only for 5 minutes. Most of us carry significant tension around in our body, unaware. And we all know that's not good for us. See, there are even left brain justifications for leaving left brain for a break. There's a hoot. Life is one whole heck of a lot more fun than left brain ever imagined or ever could. But it helps to loosen up some of that tension first, and then the fun shows up easier if it doesn't have to fight its way through that. Okay, there's been both food for pondering and food for thought here. It's rainbow time again in the living room as I write. Oh, it's such a grand marvel. You guys get to see just what's on the one wall, while what I get to see is spread around both the floor and the ceiling in addition to all the other walls, everything in the room. It's a taste of heavenly bliss, or it can be if you're relaxed enough. Tension doesn't help. We're all beautiful, just as we are, my friends. Don't think that you're not perfect. You are. Not only perfect, but so dearly beloved that it will bring tears to your eyes the first time you get to really feel it. Source and the Invisibles unconditionally loving you. So, work your way gently into knowing that you are divine. You'll find it holds up to the test since it's true. And true things do that. They don't argue or fuss. They just be. While all that other junk just falls away. Namaste.